Hi, I'm the creator of Glyph Tools, and I will teach you the process of creating a composition for your Nothing device. Because this tutorial is in form of a video, it will be outdated very quickly. You can always find the most up-to-date instructions in the wiki of the Glyph Tools on GitHub, which you can see right here. The link to that will be in the video description. You will also find corrections and tips down there. So first go to the video description and open this GitHub repository. Then scroll down to the Wiki and Documentation heading right here and click the Wiki link. You will be redirected to this site where you will find all the topics you can learn about. For everyone who already created a composition with the old version of the tools, this revision fixed the annoying bug that made the lights and the audio drift apart over time. Because of the nature of this bug, you need to remake your creation with the new tools, starting with your label file. If you're affected by this, read the migration topic in the wiki right here. If you need help or want to share your creation with the community, join the Discord linked right here at the bottom. And now we will go through each topic in order, starting with the second topic, downloading the Glyph Tools. To download the most recent version of the Glyph Tools, you can click here to download them. This will get you a zip file, and we will extract the content to a location that is easily accessible, and I will refer to that location as the Glyph Tools location. This is the zip file I downloaded, so you can just use the Windows File Explorer and take that folder and put it in your Documents folder, for example. So in here inside are now all the scripts you need. And this is what I will refer to as the Glyph Tools location. Next, we will need to install a few dependencies the scripts need. We'll find the instructions right here, and they will vary based on the operating system you're using. For now, we will look at the recommended automatic installation on Windows. Navigate to your Glyph Tools location, and if we are already in the File Explorer, we can enable a feature we will need later. So for this, go to View and then File Name Extensions and check that box. On Windows 11, it might be also at the top or hidden in the right-click menu. So now you can see the extensions of all the files. So to install all the dependencies on Windows, you just need to double-click this Install Dependencies.bat file, and it will ask you for administrator permissions after agreeing to install all the following dependencies. If the Microsoft Store pops up, you will need to install this application because the automatic install utilizes this application to install all the dependencies. So after it is installed, you can see that because there is no install button right here, and also it's not downloading it right now, you can close the Microsoft Store and go back into the console window and press the Enter key, for example. Now it will ask you if you want to install Audacity. We want to install that, yes. The tool we just downloaded through the Microsoft Store now wants you to agree to the terms of services. It will install Audacity, then install FFmpeg, which we will need to modify the audio file. And then last but not least, it will install Python, which we will need for the scripts themselves. It will also ask you if you want to create a shortcut to invoke Python with Python 3, just press any key if you're unsure. And now it also installed all the Python packages the scripts need, and we have the success message. Now we can press any key to exit this installer. Now we can begin to create our first composition. First of all, this wiki and this video is not meant to be an Audacity tutorial. If you want to know more, you can access the wiki of Audacity itself right here. And there will also be small links to relevant pages of the wiki from Audacity inside this wiki. So first, open Audacity, which was installed when you installed your dependencies. Now you need to get yourself the audio you want to work with. You can get it with a tool like YTDLP, or you can download it with a web downloader. I've already downloaded mine. You can just drag and drop your audio file into Audacity. And the first thing you should do is save your Audacity project. You can do this by selecting File and then Save Project. Just select Save to Computer and save it, for example, into your Downloads folder. Then you can start cutting the audio to the right length. This is a whole song, but I don't want to use the whole song, so I can cut the audio by selecting a part of the audio, like from here to the beginning, and then I can press the delete key on my keyboard. You can also select a position in the audio and press Ctrl I if you want to split the audio, and then you can rearrange them, for example, or do something crazy with it. After you are done cutting your audio, you can go ahead and add another track that we'll need. It's called a label track. We will use the Audacity label feature to tell the scripts what we want. You can create labels by clicking right here on the label track and then pressing on your keyboard Ctrl and B. This will create a so-called point label because the start point and the end point of this label are equal. But we won't really need a point label. We will almost need a region label. You can create a region label by selecting a region and then press Ctrl B. It will look something like this. You can then move the start and the end position of the label by dragging on this small little dot. You can also drag the whole label around by clicking and dragging here. The point level you can move by also dragging on the ball, and as you can see it will move the start and the end position of this label. And if you want to transform a point label into a region label like this one, you drag on these little arrows. So now it's also a region label. If you want to move multiple labels at once, you can hold Shift down on your keyboard and then drag on one of the labels in this label track, and all of them will move at the same time. It is also possible to use multiple label tracks to organize your labels a little bit. You can add another label track by adding one like we did before. If you want to delete a label or multiple labels, you can either right click on a label and then select delete label. Or if you want to delete multiple labels, you can select the labels and not press delete, because if you press delete, then all the labels behind the labels you just deleted will move forward. You will need to press Ctrl, Alt and K. More info regarding manipulation of these labels can be found in the wiki. And the last thing this chapter covers is selecting a phone you want to make the composition for. Currently, the supported phones by the Glyph Tools are the Nothing Phone 1, Nothing Phone 2 and Nothing Phone 2a, and the Nothing Phone 2a Plus, which will release in a few days, will also be supported once it comes out. I will make this tutorial composition for the Nothing Phone 1 because this is the only phone that I currently have. But I will also discuss how you can make the composition for Nothing Phone 2, 2a, 2a Plus, etc. along the way. Now we can go to the next chapter. If you want to create a composition, you need to follow these 5 steps every time. So first, set up your Audacity project. We already did that. Add the mandatory labels, which we will do in just a second. Ask yourself for which supported phone you are making the composition, in this case the Nothing Phone 1. Then create the lighting part of your composition and then use the Glyph Tools to transform the labels we are creating in Audacity into the format that the phone understands. For the scripts to work, you need to add 3 point labels which must be placed on the label track. One is to indicate to the script which version of this label syntax you're using. The second one is for which phone model you are making the composition. And you also need to place a label called end at the end of your audio. Because I'm making the composition for a Nothing Phone 1, I need to use Phone 1 written exactly like this, capitalized, for the model string. Back in the project, I will delete these 2 label tracks and start with a clean label track. Then I will go to the end of the audio file, You can scroll to the left or right with the bar or by holding down Shift and scrolling with your mouse wheel. Hover over the label track until you see the yellow line. Click and press Ctrl B and then type on your keyboard all caps end. Then we will go back to the beginning of the label track and place the remaining two labels. First of all, the label underscore version equals 1. Then you can press Ctrl B again to place another label at the same location. And here we will specify for what phone we want to make this composition. So phone underscore model equals phone 1. If you're using multiple label tracks, place these 3 labels only on one. The lighting part of our composition essentially consists of multiple region labels. Let's now take a look at an example of how the labels need to be named. This is the example. We can visually see that this is a region label because the start and end position differ. This format has 4 sections split by a dash. The first section, in this example 2, is referred to as the glyph ID and it is utilized to address a glyph or a zone. If you want more information on words like glyph or zone, you can click on them and you will get redirected to another page in the wiki, which then explains these words. The second section, referred to as the light level from, is utilized to set a brightness starting point for the addressed glyph or zone. In this example, it is 0, which means 0%. The third section, referred to as the light level 2, is utilized to set a brightness endpoint. In this example, it's 100, which means 100%. And the fourth section and last one, referred to as the interpolation mode, indicates how to interpolate between the brightness start and brightness endpoint. In this example, it is lin, which means linear interpolation. So to summarize, this region label does address a glyph with the ID 2 and linearly interpolates from 0% brightness to 100% brightness, the span of 1 second, from 0.5 to 1.5 seconds. Right here you can see the naming format for the labels. You can see some examples here. Depending on for what phone you make the composition, you need to use different glyph IDs. If we take a look at the Nothing Phone 1 page, we can see this handy graphic which tells us which glyphs correspond to what ID. And there's also this table. There's also a picture for Nothing Phone 2 and for the Nothing Phone 2A. Most of the time the glyphs are numbered from top to bottom and left to right. The light level from value is given in percentage, light level 2 also, and the interpolation mode can be 3 different values right now. Lin for linear interpolation, exponential and logarithmic. You can see all these curves interactively visualized with a Desmos graph. We can see that linear just is a linear function. Exponential starts slow and then gets faster over time. And logarithmic is the other way around from the exponential function. You can find examples for each of the supported phones in their respective example directory. Now if we look at this example again, keep in mind that this composition is made for the Nothing Phone 1. We can see that the glyph ID 2 references the glyph right up here. Also keep in mind after this label ends, the glyph with the glyph ID 2, in our case the diagonal glyph on the Nothing Phone 1, will drop down to 0% brightness. Now I want to show you a few tips and tricks. If you want to place labels directly after one another, you can place one label and then hover over the end of the label until you see that yellow line. Click it and then press Ctrl B. And then you have a point label at that position and then you can drag the end position to where you want the end position to be. If you want to control your label's placement more precisely, you can right click on the label and press Edit Label. Then you can see your label in this label editor where you can input the start and end time. You can also see all your labels in your project by going to Edit, then Labels and Label Editor. Sometimes it can also be useful to see the spectrogram of the audio. You can view that by right-clicking on this audio track and then selecting spectrogram. To make it easier to sync the glyphs with the audio, you can use a website like this to split the music apart and get the different elements. After you've finished placing your labels, or if you want to take a look at how your current composition looks, you can go to the next chapter. First, you need to export your labels. You can do that by pressing Ctrl A on your keyboard, then go to File, Export Other, and press Export Labels. Then navigate to your Glyph Tools location and save your label file there. Now we need to export the audio. Go to File, Export Audio, press Export to Computer, select the format Opus, leave everything default, also save it to your Glyph Tools location, and press Export. Your Glyph Tools location should now look like this. But before we can utilize the scripts, we need to rename the tutorial composition. To do that, right click on your audio file, press Rename, and then do not change the name, but change the extension. Change it from Opus to OGG. And then press Yes to rename. If you can't see this extension, then you need to go to View and check the file name extension box. Now we will use the GlyphTranslator to generate an nglyph file, which we'll need in the next step. Depending on your operating system, you need to follow different instructions. You will need to open a terminal, but don't worry, it is not as scary as it sounds. Double click this script here, then copy this and paste it into your terminal. Do not press enter just yet, because you need to replace label file with the actual path to your label file. You can do this by removing the string and then going to your file explorer and drag and dropping the label.txt file into the terminal. It now should look something like this. Now you can press enter. The script tells you where it has written the nglyph file, and it should be in your working directory, which means it is right here. If you plan on sharing your composition later on, I recommend creating a watermark.txt file where you can put in some ASCII art and then add the -- watermark argument and then drag and drop the watermark.txt file inside the terminal. The command now should look something like this. The output should now contain processing the watermark from file to your file path. Keep in mind, if you make changes to your labels inside your Audacity project, you need to export them again so the tools can access them. Your Glyph Tools location should now look like this. We will now use the GlyphModder, which actually takes the data and applies it to the audio we exported earlier. Depending on your operating system, you also need to follow different instructions here. First, open the terminal again or reuse the terminal you already have open. Copy this from the wiki and paste it inside your terminal, but do not press enter just yet. You can now give your composition a title, which will be represented in the metadata. When writing out your title, make sure you keep the double quotes. Then we need to give the script the nglyph file, which we've made in the previous step. Just delete the placeholder and then drag and drop the nglyph file from your Explorer inside your terminal. And do the same for your audio file. And now you can press enter. After executing the command, you should see your watermark printed here if you used one. And you will see we have a new file. It's called like your audio before, and _composed is appended to it. This is now your finished composition. You can check if everything went right by writing ffprobe space and then dragging and dropping in your composition and pressing enter. It should spit something out like this with the title you gave earlier, with a bunch of garbage, and also your watermark if you provided one while using the GlyphTranslator. Now we can continue to the last chapter in the wiki. The last step covers how to safely transfer your composition to your device, how you import your composition, how you can share your creation without infringing on copyright laws, and what you can do next. To transfer your composition, I recommend connecting your phone via cable with your PC, because some services like Google Drive tend to modify either the audio extension or the metadata, so your composition would break that way. After you've transferred your composition to your phone, you can import it by pressing the button on the top left, and then pressing the button on the top right. After importing, you can play it back in the Glyph visualizer, or you can use it as a ringtone or as a notification tone. Do not share your composition audio if you do not have the rights to distribute the audio. If you want to share it, share your nglyph file instead with the following information: what song you used, the artist name, the link to a YouTube or to another download link or a streaming link, and the start time you used in your composition and the end time. You can find the timestamps in Audacity if you import your original audio again. Move your cut audio to the right position. Select your cut audio from the start and end position, and then read your from and to time right here. So now that you know how to create a composition, you can create an advanced composition which uses zones. On most devices, you can also address individual zones. Zones are areas inside a glyph which can also be addressed individually. For example, on the Nothing Phone 1, the glyph with the glyph ID 4 has 8 zones. So if you want to address a zone, you don't use the whole number, you use a decimal, where the first part of the decimal is the glyph ID of the glyph, and the second part is the zone inside that glyph. Here you can see an example on how to address one zone in the USB line glyph on the Nothing Phone 2. Once again, if you need help, take a look at the troubleshooting topic, and if this does not help you, you can join the Discord. Thank you for watching and happy glyphing!